Hello, I'm the 10-minute English teacher. Let's get you exam ready. Today, we're thinking about key moments for the character Macbeth. If you're a subscriber, there is a link to a free worksheet in the description. And if you're not, then you can be, or you can just listen for fun. Before we get going, don't forget to like and subscribe. There are plenty of things on the channel to help you revise the play and know Macbeth like an expert. Okay, let's think about key moments for the character Macbeth. We're going to be thinking about Act 1 today, and we're going to be mapping the action involving the character Macbeth. So along the left-hand side, we've got his mood. He might be feeling positive or negative, happy or sad, and we're going to track that action throughout Act 1. There are 7 scenes in Act 1, so I've split this into 7 so that we can think about his journey through Act 1. Now, Act 1 starts with the witches. He's not actually in Act 1, Scene 1. It's the witches speaking about meeting Macbeth again. They say fair is foul and foul is fair, and then they disappear, ready to see Macbeth when he passes them in the future. The second scene is where King Duncan is asking about progress in the war, and a captain who's come from the battlefield tells him all about how brave Macbeth is. King Duncan says, "Valiant cousin, worthy gentleman," and decides that he's going to give Macbeth a new title. He's going to become the Thane of Cawdor. So in Act 1, Scene 1, we meet the witches. In Act 1, Scene 2, King Duncan is told about Macbeth. And it's Act 1, Scene 3, where we actually meet him for the first time in the play. So Macbeth turns up with his friend Banquo. He's on his way home, and the witches intercept him, and they tell him his future. They firstly say, "All hail Thane of Glam," so they know his name. Then they say, "All hail Macbeth, Thane of Cawdor," so they're predicting that he's going to be given a new title. And then they tell him that he's going to be king one day. So this is all relatively positive. He'd be in a very positive mood, rising, when he's given that news by the witches. But then he begins to have dark thoughts. This stirs Macbeth, and he's completely wrapped by what he hears, and then comes out of his own sort of private thoughts and then departs. He's off to see the king because the messengers come and see Macbeth and tell him that he's the Thane of Cawdor now and that he needs to go and see King Duncan. When he goes and sees King Duncan, he is lavished with praise. So King Duncan has a feast, and then he speaks about how wonderful Macbeth and Banquo are. They are guests of honour, so Macbeth would be feeling pretty positive at that point. In fact, you could argue that at this moment that might be the highest point that Macbeth experiences in the play itself. But then again, he has more dark thoughts. This is where he starts thinking about treason and killing King Duncan privately. And he says to the audience, "Stars hide their fires, let not light see my black and deep desires." So he's got all these dark thoughts that are intrusive and that are starting to stir in him. So that's his action so far. We don't see him in the first 2 scenes. And then there's a little bit of up and down for Macbeth. He's got this positive news from the witches, but then that brings these dark, intrusive thoughts. He's praised by King Duncan, but then those thoughts return. And it's at that point that he goes home. He's home at last. He was on his way home from the battlefield. He's then told by Ross and Angus that he needs to go and see King Duncan. And then now he's finally returned to Lady Macbeth. Now, he sent her a letter in advance, and she knows about the meeting with the witches. And this is where things start to go wrong, because she has got a plot to kill King Duncan. And she shares her ideas with Macbeth. Never shall some that morrow see. She's thinking about killing King Duncan when he comes to visit. And this is something that is a little bit concerning for Macbeth. He's not completely keen on the idea. Act 1, Scene 6 is not actually a scene that involves Macbeth. Duncan comes to visit. He's greeted by Lady Macbeth. That's where she says, "Anything you want will be twice done and done double," which links her to the witches and the idea of plotting and the supernatural and evil. So he's not in that scene. King Duncan arrives. He's very pleased to be a guest of the Macbeths and says, "This castle hath a pleasant seat." And we all know that Lady Macbeth is plotting his death. So that little moment there, Act 1, Scene 6, doesn't actually involve Macbeth. At the end of Act 1, Macbeth then stands up to Lady Macbeth and says that we'll proceed no further. He doesn't want to kill King Duncan and talks about the fact that King Duncan has brought forth golden opinions of him. So he's got his new title. People are praising Macbeth because of the fact that King Duncan is so happy with him. It's their house. They should be protecting the king. He doesn't want to do it. But Lady Macbeth then overrules him. That's where she forces her will on Macbeth. He is unable to stand up to her. And by the end of Act 1, he has agreed to kill King Duncan. So that's actually his journey. And if we think about his feelings, there's a bit of a roller coaster ride for Macbeth, but then by the end of Act 1, we can see that we are sliding towards misery and failure for him. He's tried to stand up to Lady Macbeth. He hasn't been able to. He's had to wrestle with his intrusive thoughts of treason. You can see that in the middle of our map. He's been feeling positive about the news he's told by the witches, but then that leads to those dark thoughts. He's praised by King Duncan, and then he has more intrusive dark thoughts. Lady Macbeth then forces her will on him. He's unable to stand up to her, and by the end of Act 1, he has resolved to kill King Duncan. And that takes us into Act 2. Now, what you can do to think about Macbeth, you could think about all of the other acts. There are 5 acts in the play, and you could just track his progress. If you want to use scene by scene as a method to do this, you could do. Otherwise, you can just think about what actually happens in the act and think about Macbeth's mood. He has a bit of a roller coaster journey. He's constantly wrestling with his conscience, and he's having to involve himself in increasingly more heinous and terrible acts in order to cover his tracks and keep his power. So we've got all the other 4 acts for you to think of, and you can think about Act 2. That involves the killing of King Duncan. That involves treason. Act 3 has got a focus on Banquo, which involves the banquet scene. Act 4, Macbeth goes to see the witches again, and then Act 5 is the end. So we've got Act 5, where we've got the final showdown between Macbeth and Macduff. So you could track Macbeth's mood and his feelings throughout that time. And if you want some information about those acts and you need a little bit of a summary or a run through, you can have a look at my other videos, the summaries that I've made that have got these comic strips that will help you understand all the key moments in each of the acts. Okay, check out the other videos on my channel. I'll continue to add content. Feel free to ask for something you'd like to see me cover in the comments section. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share, and keep revising.